I am Jane, 32 years old, and I never imagined my mother-in-law Margaret would shatter my daughter Lily's heart so completely. When Margaret moved into our Denver home 2 years ago after losing her apartment, I welcomed her despite her subtle jabs about everything from my cooking to my parenting. But at the joint 14th birthday celebration for Lily and her twin cousins, Margaret revealed her true nature with one devastating sentence that left my daughter sobbing. A sentence that finally pushed me to make the hardest decision for our family's peace. My husband Ryan and I have been married for 12 years. We met at a coffee shop in downtown Denver, fell in love over shared dreams of travel and family, and built our life in a cozy suburb. Ryan, 34, works as a middle school math teacher at Jefferson Middle School, staying late to tutor struggling students. He's patient, gentle, and always tries to keep peace in any conflict. Our daughter Lily is 14, an incredible artist who spends hours sketching in her room and writing short stories that make me cry with pride. Her art teacher constantly praises her talent, saying she has a gift that could take her places. Lily has always been sensitive, feeling things deeply, but she also has this quiet strength that reminds me of myself at her age. Ryan grew up with his half-brother Marcus after their father remarried when Ryan was 10. Though they lived in different houses, the brothers stayed close. Marcus, now 36, married his college sweetheart Katie, and they have 14-year-old twins, Jackson and Madison. The twins attend St. Catherine's Prep Academy across town and excel at everything from lacrosse to violin, achievements Marcus and Katie proudly post on Facebook daily. Margaret became a widow 3 years ago when Ryan's stepfather died from complications after surgery. She claimed financial hardship after selling her condo to pay medical bills and needed somewhere to stay. Ryan immediately offered our home, and despite my reservations, I agreed. Family helps family, right? We converted our spare bedroom with fresh paint, new curtains, and comfortable furniture to make Margaret feel welcome. We adjusted our routines, dinner times, even our weekend plans around her needs. Our house is a modest 3-bedroom ranch in Thornton with a small backyard where Lily likes to paint outdoors. I work part-time as a freelance graphic designer, scheduling projects around Lily's school hours. The warning signs started within months. At Sunday dinners when Marcus brought the twins, Margaret would save the best desserts for Jackson and Madison while conveniently forgetting about Lily. She remembered every detail about the twins' soccer tournaments and music recitals, but claimed she couldn't recall Lily's art show or writing competition dates. These seemed like small oversights, easily dismissed, but they formed a pattern that grew harder to ignore. Lily tried desperately to connect with her grandmother, bringing her paintings to show Margaret, hoping for praise or acknowledgement. "Grandma, look at this portrait I painted in art class," she'd say, holding up a stunning watercolor that showed remarkable talent for her age. Margaret would barely glance up from her iPad. "That's nice, dear," she'd mumble, returning to her games. But when Jackson mentioned his lacrosse tournament or Madison talked about her violin solo, Margaret's face would light up with genuine interest. "Tell me everything," she'd exclaim, giving them her complete attention. But I had no idea that one birthday party would expose the ugly truth Margaret had been hiding all along. I tried addressing Margaret's favoritism with Ryan several times. "Have you noticed how differently your mom treats the kids?" I'd ask after Margaret retreated to her room for the evening. Ryan would sigh, running his hands through his hair. "Mom's still adjusting to living with us. She'll warm up to Lily eventually," he'd say. "You're reading too much into it. Mom connects with the twins because they're into sports like Dad was." I'd drop it, not wanting to cause tension, but the knot in my stomach tightened with each dismissal. Financially, we were comfortable but careful. Ryan's teaching salary and my freelance work covered our needs, but after helping Margaret move in and covering her expenses, our savings had taken a hit. We weren't struggling, but big purchases required planning and budgeting. Margaret contributed almost nothing to household expenses, claiming her Social Security barely covered her medications and personal needs. We never questioned this, taking her word out of respect for her situation. Marcus and Katie, meanwhile, both worked high-paying jobs at Lockheed Martin. They lived in Cherry Hills Village, took European vacations, and never hesitated to buy the latest gadgets or designer clothes for Jackson and Madison. I never resented their success, but I noticed Margaret making comparisons that left Lily feeling inadequate. "Jackson and Madison are going to Switzerland this Christmas," she'd announce at dinner. "Isn't it wonderful that Marcus can provide such cultural experiences for his children?" The implication hung in the air, that we were somehow failing Lily by not matching these opportunities. Despite these undercurrents, we maintained regular family gatherings. Monthly barbecues, holiday celebrations, and casual weekend visits kept everyone connected. Marcus and Katie were pleasant enough, though somewhat absorbed in their own achievements. The twins were typical teenagers, glued to their phones, occasionally engaging with Lily but often leaving her feeling invisible. As Margaret's stay extended from months into 2 years, this became our new normal. I learned to shield Lily from the worst comparisons. Ryan continued making excuses for his mother's behavior. Margaret settled comfortably into her role as the family matriarch who subtly controlled the emotional temperature of our home. The delicate balance was precarious, but I thought we could manage it for Ryan's sake and out of respect for family bonds. By coincidence, Lily and the twins all had birthdays in November. Lily's fell on the 8th, Jackson and Madison's on the 22nd. 4 years we'd celebrated separately, but this year with all 3 kids turning 14, Margaret suggested a joint party. "It would be so much more efficient," she said while we cleared dinner dishes. "And the children are becoming young adults. It should be special." Ryan loved the idea, and I had to admit the practical benefits. 1 venue, 1 cake order, 1 set of decorations, and everyone could attend without juggling multiple weekends. I took charge of planning, booking the community center at Thornton City Park for the Saturday between birthdays. I ordered a custom 3-layer cake with different flavors. Chocolate for Lily, vanilla for Jackson, red velvet for Madison. I designed digital invitations and created a shared document for activity ideas. Little did I know that Margaret was planning something that would devastate my daughter and change our family forever. 2 weeks before the party, I took Margaret to Target for decorations. We were comparing balloon prices when she suddenly checked her Apple Watch. "I need to run a quick errand. Meet me at Starbucks in an hour." Later that afternoon, I overheard her on the phone with Marcus. "Yes, I got them both. The newest model, just as we discussed. They're going to be so surprised," she said in a hushed tone that immediately caught my attention. When she noticed me in the doorway, she quickly ended the call. "Just finalizing birthday details with Marcus," she explained with a dismissive wave. That evening during dinner, Lily shared her birthday wish list. "I'd really love some new art supplies, especially those Prismacolor pencils we saw at Blick Art Materials. And maybe some books." She hesitated before adding, "I know it's expensive, but my phone is really dying. Even a basic new iPhone would be amazing." She looked hopefully around the table, especially at her grandmother. Margaret barely glanced up from her chicken parmesan. "Art supplies. How nice," she said flatly. But minutes later, when Ryan mentioned the twins' upcoming birthday, she perked up immediately. "What are Jackson and Madison hoping for this year? Are they still into those video games? Or perhaps something more mature now that they're turning 14? The enthusiasm in her voice was unmistakable. I saw Lily's face fall before she masked her disappointment. Ryan had been working extra tutoring sessions specifically to afford a good gift for Lily. "I want to get her that iPhone," he told me late one night after Lily had gone to bed. "She deserves it, and she really needs it for school projects." I agreed, though I worried about the expense. We'd been setting aside money each month, and with the extra tutoring income we could manage it. The day of the party dawned bright and clear, a perfect November Saturday. Lily was up early, too excited to sleep. She'd carefully selected her outfit, a new burgundy sweater that brought out her green eyes, dark jeans, and the gold heart necklace Ryan and I had given her on her actual birthday. We arrived at the community center an hour early. Ryan set up the sound system while Lily and I added final touches to decorations. We'd transformed the playroom with gold, burgundy, and cream balloons, string lights, and photo displays of all 3 birthday kids growing up. Marcus and Katie arrived precisely at 2 p.m. with Jackson and Madison dressed in matching designer outfits that probably cost more than our entire party budget. Margaret immediately fussed over them, straightening Jackson's collar and complimenting Madison's expensive boots. Lily approached with a shy smile, clearly hoping for similar attention, but Margaret merely nodded before turning back to the twins. Soon the community center filled with teenage laughter. We'd invited about 40 people, classmates, neighbors, and extended family. The activities Ryan planned were hits: a photo booth with props, karaoke station, and game areas where teens gathered in shifting groups. At 4:30 it was time for cake. The 3-tier creation was wheeled out, 14 candles glowing on each level. The crowd gathered as everyone sang, "Happy Birthday." But what happened next during gift opening would shatter my daughter's heart and expose Margaret's true nature to everyone. After cake came the moment everyone anticipated: opening presents. We'd set up 3 chairs at the front, and the teens took their seats as guests gathered around. They began with gifts from friends and family, taking turns opening packages containing books, gift cards, clothing, and accessories. Lily received a beautiful sketchbook from her best friend Emma, professional art supplies from several classmates, and novels from our neighbors. She thanked each giver with genuine gratitude, her pile of opened gifts growing steadily. When most presents had been opened, Margaret suddenly stood up and cleared her throat. "I have something special for the birthday children," she announced loudly, commanding everyone's attention. She disappeared into the back room and returned carrying 2 identically wrapped boxes with elaborate silver bows. The boxes were the perfect size for phones, and my stomach clenched with apprehension. "For my precious grandchildren on this special birthday," Margaret proclaimed, handing packages to Jackson and Madison with flourish. The twins tore into wrapping paper eagerly, and identical gasps escaped them as they revealed brand new iPhone 15 Pro Max phones, the latest model released just weeks earlier. These weren't basic phones, but the premium version with maximum storage, easily costing over $1,200 each. "Grandma, no way!" Jackson exclaimed, jumping up to hug Margaret. "This is incredible. Thank you so much," Madison squealed, also embracing her grandmother. Margaret beamed with pleasure at their reaction, accepting thanks with obvious pride. "Only the best for my grandchildren," she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. The room grew quieter as people realized the extravagance of the gifts. All eyes turned to Lily, who sat very still in her chair, hands folded in her lap. Her expression held confused expectation as she waited for her grandmother to produce a 3rd package. After all, there were 3 birthday celebrants. "Grandma," Lily finally said, her voice small but carrying in the hushed room. "Did you get something for me too?" Margaret turned to Lily, and the look on her face made my blood run cold. It wasn't apologetic or embarrassed. It was dismissive, almost annoyed at being questioned. "That's all I have," she said flatly. "I only got gifts for my real grandchildren." The silence that followed was absolute. 40 people collectively held their breath, unable to believe what they'd just heard. Lily's face crumpled in confusion. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice trembling. Margaret shrugged, the gesture casual and cruel. "You're not really part of the family, dear. Not by blood, anyway." Took me a moment to process her words. Not by blood. The implication hit me like a physical blow. Margaret was referring to the fact that Lily was adopted, something we'd never hidden, but also never treated as making her less our daughter. We'd adopted her as an infant after years of fertility struggles, and she'd been our beloved child from the moment she was placed in our arms. Tears welled in Lily's eyes and spilled down her cheeks. She stood up so quickly her chair tipped over backward, the crash startling in the stunned silence. Then she ran from the room, shoulders shaking with sobs. I immediately followed, but this was far from over. Margaret had just shown her true colors in the cruelest way possible. I found Lily in the women's bathroom, huddled in a corner with knees drawn to her chest. Her carefully applied makeup was streaked with tears, her earlier joy completely extinguished. "Oh, sweetheart," I said, kneeling beside her and pulling her into my arms. She collapsed against me, her body heaving with sobs. "Why does she hate me, Mom?" she choked out between breaths. "What did I ever do to her?" "Nothing, baby. You did nothing wrong," I assured her, stroking her hair. "Grandma is the one with the problem, not you. You are our daughter in every way that matters." After several minutes of holding her while she cried, I helped Lily clean her face and fix her hair. "We can leave right now if you want," I offered. "Or we can go back out there and show Grandma that her words can't hurt you." It was unfair to ask a 14-year-old to be so strong, but I wanted to give her the choice. Lily took a deep, shuddering breath. "I want to go home," she whispered. "But I should say goodbye to my friends first." When we returned to the main room, the atmosphere had completely changed. Ryan was standing toe-to-toe with his mother, his face flushed with anger. I'd rarely seen my husband truly angry, but there was no mistaking his fury now. "How could you say that to her?" he was demanding. "How could you be so cruel to a child? Any child, let alone my daughter." Margaret stood with arms crossed, unrepentant. "I simply spoke the truth, Ryan. The girl is adopted. She's not a blood relative. Jackson and Madison are my actual grandchildren." Marcus and Katie hovered nearby, clearly uncomfortable. The twins were showing off their new phones to friends, either oblivious to or intentionally ignoring the drama unfolding. Most other guests were gathering belongings, eager to escape the tension. The party was effectively over. I guided Lily around the edge of the room, helping her collect her gifts and say quick goodbyes to her closest friends. Emma gave Lily a fierce hug and whispered something that made Lily give a watery smile. Other friends expressed support through touches on the arm or sympathetic glances. The drive home was filled with tense silence. Margaret had come with us to the party, but Marcus offered to drive her back to our house later, clearly wanting to remove her from the immediate situation. Ryan white-knuckled the steering wheel the entire way, occasionally glancing in the rearview mirror at Lily, who stared out the window, emotionally exhausted. As we pulled into our driveway, I reached over and placed my hand on Ryan's arm. "We need to talk about what happens next," I said quietly. He nodded, his expression grim. We both knew everything had changed, and there was no going back to pretending all was well. Margaret had shown her true colors in the cruelest possible way, and now we had to deal with the fallout. That evening would bring the most difficult conversation of our marriage, and by morning, our family would look completely different. What I discovered about Margaret's finances would make her betrayal even worse, and force me to make a decision that would change everything. That evening, Lily retreated to her room immediately after we arrived home, locking the door behind her. Despite gentle knocking and offers of her favorite Chinese takeout, she remained secluded, only texting that she wanted to be alone. Ryan and I withdrew to our bedroom for the most intense discussion of our marriage. "I can't believe she would say something so heartless," I said, pacing while Ryan sat on our bed with his head in his hands. "Actually, I can believe it. The signs have been there all along, but this was beyond anything I could have imagined." "She's getting older," Ryan said weakly. "Maybe she didn't mean it the way it sounded." I stopped pacing and stared at him incredulously. "Are you serious right now? I only got gifts for my real grandchildren. You're not really part of the family. How exactly was she not meaning that the way it sounded?" He sighed deeply, shoulders slumping. I know it was inexcusable. She's my mother, Jane. I've never seen her act like this before." "Really?" "Never," challenged him. "What about last Christmas when she gave the twins those PlayStation 5s and got Lily a $10 journal from CVS? Or when she drove 3 hours to watch Jackson's lacrosse championship, but claimed she was too tired to attend Lily's art show that was 15 minutes away?" Ryan was silent for a long moment, processing my words. "I guess I didn't want to see it," he finally admitted. "It was easier to make excuses than admit my mother could be so prejudiced." The next morning, while doing laundry, I found a receipt in Margaret's jacket pocket. It was from the Apple Store showing the purchase of 2 iPhone 15 Pro Max phones, totaling over $2,600. The date was 2 weeks earlier, confirming this had been premeditated, not a last-minute impulse. The discovery hit me like a punch to the gut. Margaret had planned to exclude Lily all along, to publicly humiliate my child on her birthday. Even more disturbing was realizing Margaret clearly had substantial savings despite claiming financial hardship as her reason for moving in with us. Over the next few days, Lily withdrew from family activities. She took meals in her room, claiming homework needs, and avoided the living room when Margaret was present. The vibrant, creative child who filled our home with stories and laughter had retreated into herself. On Wednesday, I received a call from Lily's school counselor. "Mrs. Thompson, I wanted to check on Lily. She's been unusually quiet in classes, and her English teacher mentioned she hasn't turned in assignments, which is very unlike her." The call confirmed what I already knew. The damage Margaret had inflicted went beyond hurt feelings. It was affecting Lily's academics, her social interactions, her entire sense of self. That evening, I confronted Margaret directly. "You spent over $2,500 on phones for the twins but couldn't get anything for Lily. And all this time, you've claimed you could barely afford your medications." Margaret's face hardened. "My money is my business, Jane. I can spend it how I choose, and I choose to spend it on my actual grandchildren. While living rent-free in our home," I pointed out. I knew then that Margaret had to go. The only question was whether Ryan would support the hardest decision we'd ever have to make. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay awake beside Ryan, my mind racing through options and scenarios. Around 2 a.m., I slipped downstairs to the kitchen and opened my laptop. I spent hours researching emotional abuse, family boundaries, and the impact of toxic relationships on children's development. Everything I read confirmed what my heart already knew. Allowing Margaret to continue undermining Lily's sense of belonging would cause long-term damage to my daughter's emotional well-being. When Ryan came downstairs at 6:30, he found me still at the kitchen table with multiple browser tabs open and notes scribbled on paper. "You've been up all night," he observed, concern etching his features. "Ryan, we need to talk about your mother," I said directly. "This situation isn't sustainable. The impact on Lily is too severe." He nodded slowly, pouring himself coffee before joining me. "I know. I've been thinking about it too. What she said at the party, and then again last night. It's inexcusable. Your mother needs to leave our home," I said firmly. "I know she's your mother, and I know this is difficult, but our primary responsibility is to our daughter." To my relief, Ryan didn't argue. "You're right," he admitted. "I've been torn between loyalty to my mother and protecting Lily. But seeing how much this is hurting our daughter, there's really no choice. Lily has to come first." After Lily left for school, I sat Margaret down at the kitchen table. "Margaret, I want to talk about what happened at the birthday party and the comments you've been making to Lily." "Are we still on that?" She rolled her eyes. "I thought we'd moved past it." "No, we haven't moved past it," I said firmly. "What you said deeply hurt Lily. Telling her she's not part of the family because she's adopted was cruel and untrue." "I merely stated a fact," Margaret replied. "The girl isn't biologically related to me. Lily is our daughter in every way that matters," I countered. "Family is about love and commitment, not just DNA." The conversation continued with Margaret making increasingly offensive comments about my social background and Lily's unknown origins. Finally, I asked directly, "Will you apologize to Lily and commit to treating her with the same respect you show Jackson and Madison?" Margaret's response was immediate and unapologetic. "I have nothing to apologize for. The truth may be uncomfortable, but that doesn't make it less true." "In that case," I said calmly, "I need you to pack your things and leave our home. You have 24 hours. Margaret's eyes widened in shock. "This is James's house too. You can't make this decision alone. Ryan and I have already discussed this," I informed her. He agrees that your presence is harmful to Lily. Within hours, Marcus arrived to help Margaret pack. There were awkward goodbyes and stiff promises to talk soon. Then Margaret was gone, the car disappearing around our street corner. That evening we had our first dinner as just the three of us in 2 years. Conversation flowed more easily. Laughter returned to our table, and Lily volunteered information about her day. A small but significant change. "I owe you an apology," Ryan told Lily, his arm around her shoulders. "I should have protected you better." Our home became a sanctuary again, a place where Lily could grow without seeking approval from someone incapable of giving it freely. Sometimes protecting our children means making painful choices and setting difficult boundaries. But family is defined by love, not biology.